What's up, MAGFest? All right. Welcome to the RadioSEGA Continued Excellence in VGM Broadcasting Community and Content, or Community and Music Preservation. Yes, that was the second most pretentious title I could come up with. Thank you very much for asking. How's everyone doing? You can do better than that. Come on! All right, way better. I love it. All right, so, again, welcome to the panel. I'm your host today. I'm the Internet's CD-ROM 1019, and baby, I was born this way. I am joined by two of the internal staff at RadioSEGA. At this box right over here is Nick Haman, our playlist manager. Give him a round of applause. And at this bottom block here is a beloved speedrunner, a beloved OC remixer, and caffeine queen. Give it up for Rexy.
I wish it wasn't Gatorade, but this'll do.
I'd like to start off by giving you guys apologies from our administrator and from our previous head administrator. They could not make it with us today. Our head administrator today went through some surgery, and he is recovering, and it went well, so we're not worried at all. So we're happy for him, and we wish him a good recovery. So you're going to have to deal with me as I go through some of the administrative blocks, and I am not entirely prepared for it, so strap yourselves in for that one. So
Maybe help along the way.
we're all going to have some fun here. All right, so I have a question. Who likes music? Cool. Who likes Sega? All right. How much would you like it if those two things came together? All right. You're right, they already do. In fact, RadioSEGA was born about 15 years back, and that's what we're here to talk about today. So we're going to take some time today to go over RadioSEGA's history, some of the administrative and how it works and why it works and how it runs. We'll talk to you a bit about some importance of music preservation, because that's kind of one of the secondary tasks that RadioSEGA has. Like, because we have to import all these tracks to play on the radio, we basically get to preserve that music at the same time. We'll also talk to you a little bit about content creation for the internet radio side, what it takes, and I'm going to be honest, if any of you want to try this someday, you might want to hear what we have to say, because anybody can do this. If you got a halfway decent PC, it's pretty easy to get into this. So if you guys got any radio ideas, I may just want to hear from you later. So who's ready for that? Cool. All right, so I have to play a little bit here because I can't see the projector, so I can't I can't words is what I'm trying to say. I can't words. I can't move things around like I wish I could, so this is going to be a challenge for a little bit. So I will start by bringing you up to speed with, I'm going to start by doing something else. I'm going to start by taking myself off push to talk. I'm sorry, hang on. Okay, we're keyboard free now, folks. That's much better. So now I can work here. All right. So you guys can see this on the screen now because I don't really have a much better way of doing this, but here's what we're working with. So RadioSEGA was founded all the way back in March of 2006 by Sega Mark. It was initially conceived as My Sega Radio. 2006, can you believe that? What were you guys doing in 2006? Oh, boo. Boo, sir. I am not a fan of that answer. All right.
I was in my senior year, that's one thing.
What, hey, you know what, Bev, Nick, what were you guys doing in 2006?
I was in my senior year at university, and at that point I had 2 tracks plus an OC remix, but really wanted to get my degree out of the way really big time.
How about you, Nick?
Sorry, I think I got a little bit static screened on both of you, actually, and didn't realize it. So I don't know what the question is. Sorry.
Oh.
Where were you in 2006?
What were you doing in 2006?
Well, I was 6 years old. I wouldn't have even been in primary school yet.
All right.
What else was I doing then? No. I have no idea then. My memory isn't that good. Doesn't go back that far, really. Maybe I was doing karate classes at some point.
Such insight. By the way, guys, in case you can't tell, RadioSEGA is composed of staff members from all over the globe. I forgot to go over this already. Nick, you're from, I forget.
Stellenbosch here in South Africa. Born in Cape Town, but lived in Stellenbosch since I was 3 years old. Although that both of them are in the Western Cape, so it's probably the closest to Antarctica that you can get in South Africa.
Okay, cool.
It's
And
just a coast a little bit farther down.
awesome. And Rexy, by the way, is coming to you straight from the United Kingdom, where it's 5 hours ahead, and she really needs to go to sleep. So give it up for her.
Well, mornings don't exist for me anyway, believe it or not.
Okay.
Oh, well,
Back to business. So, not long after the station was founded, it got renamed to RadioSEGA. At that time, I'm pretty sure Sega Sonic Radio had already been established. I'm not quite sure where Radio Nintendo was at that time, and the only reason I'm bringing those two up is because I've had a pretty long tenure as a DJ myself. Years ago, back in 2010, I joined the internal staff at Sega Sonic Radio, which is now mostly defunct. It doesn't exist as an internet radio station over IceCast anymore. But some members at Sonic Stadium, the premier board for all things Sonic the Hedgehog, make sure you bookmark that, they brought Sega Sonic Radio back as kind of like a Twitch show thing, which you can catch occasionally. Radio Nintendo is now mostly defunct, and then after the whole debacle that was, I made my way over to Radio Sega in 2015, and I've been a member of their internal show team ever since. I consider myself particularly privileged in that matter because I'm one of the few members of the whole staff that exists inside the United States, and that's why I get to submit the panels, and I get to be amongst you today. So there's that. So one of the interesting things that I think, I won't speak to every other radio station that exists on the internet, but I will speak against Radio Nintendo and Sega Sonic Radio with this function because I'm pretty sure they didn't have it. Apart from a 24/7 stream operation, which all these stations do have, you could go to these sites at any time, pull up the stream, you're going to hear music. It's just how it works. But one of the things that made Radio Sega different from those other features was that we had a request system built in. And that request system is still very fully functional today. If you were to go to radiosega.net and you signed up for your own account on that site, you can request any song from our humongous library, and in relatively short order, it will play on that station. So kind of operates just like the old days of calling into a radio station and asking you to play a song, but without the social anxiety. So
there happens to be some requests on at the moment from Kefki.
It's totally free to do that. You get an account with the Radio Sega forums as well, so you're kind of getting two for the price of nothing. At the time, it started with a pretty limited selection of Sega soundtracks, and that expanded year over year. We were relatively good about getting new games or new OSTs as they drop, and we've gotten much better at that as we've taken on people that do this for the station specifically, like Nick, who's our lead playlist manager. So in March of 2010, Sega Ages was hosted by another member of our team, Resident SD, who, by the way, I have to point this out because he's awesome. So Resident SD is a member of our media team. He manages a lot of our podcasts and downloadable content, and he just launched last year his own free access media player, which is, by the way, straight fire. So you guys, whenever you get a chance, make sure you check out Terra Player. Support our boy. That's directly affiliated with Radio Sega, and he is adding affiliations with a bunch of other channels. It is an amazing player, so I recommend you guys check that out. Very intuitive. Resident became our first ever live show, followed by Gavy's Saturday Night Sega, which... hello to everybody listening on Twitch, by the way. Hi, guys. If you're here right now on Twitch, that's because you just got kicked out of the radio stream to join us on Twitch because Gavy just ended his episode of Saturday Night Sega today. So, hey, how you guys doing? Thanks for joining us. We still have live
very
content.
Good episode, by the way.
What's that?
Oh, just saying it was a very good episode, by the way.
Thank you. It was a good episode, not me. I'm sorry. Yeah, I'm sure it was great.
Hey, you too.
I'm sorry, I can't hear that
You
well.
deserve compliments too.
What?
You deserve compliments too.
No, well, okay, thanks. Let me move forward.
Okay.
Saturday Night Sega, I think, by the way, is the longest running show that we still have on Radio Sega. It's still going, so kudos to Gavi on that. We will be talking more about that later, but suffice it to say we have a great amount of downloadable podcasts and live format content that we play on our station scheduled throughout the week. You know, almost like we run a radio station. We also offer, again, this is to the point I just previously made, we also offer recordings of all of our live shows, which you'll occasionally hear me refer to as live casts. And I'm only going to bring that up because I'm the only one in the station that uses that phrase. Everybody else is just happy with using podcasts, but it's a holdover from my misplaced loyalty from Sega Sonic Radio, so whatever. So we offer these live casts as chaptered podcasts and we were doing this before podcasts were even a mainstream thing. So we're kind of like early adopters of that. Our team grew to include a bunch of forum mods, playlist managers. We have several show hosts, podcast managers. That's kind of what Rez does. And at some point, we added a news team. And Twinny, who couldn't make it but has recorded a statement for us later, has been doing news or socials for us for about 14 years, and he's fantastic at it. We thank him very much. This all happened during Gavi's tenure as the head of the station. Our website has gone through several upgrades. With the upgrade of our website was codenamed Project T. We offered written content, which included regular features by staff members, community, and even Sega News. We've partnered with Sega Media to create the Radio Sega Media. It's a section of our website that offers free downloads and Radio Sega community podcasts. There's a lot of them, so if you're looking for something to listen to because you got to get through the daily grind to work, I'd suggest you start there. And this was probably back
ahead of you.
This is probably back in 2012. From 2013 forward, our focus had shifted back to live shows and actual radio content, and several new shows premiered on the station through the years after that. There were at some point live shows airing every single day of the week. So we're always looking for good content. I want you guys to think about that. We try to keep our schedule stacked so that we have something that we can provide to you guys. We've always collaborated with a lot of other community members, or community websites that have taken part in several of our events, like the first ever online-only Summer of Sonic, and all the physical Summer of Sonic events. Shout out to Dreadnux from Sonic Stadium for that one. In December 2014, we hosted our first community event. It was Radio Sega's Winter Fest. It happens every year in December, and that's a lot of fun. It's become a yearly tradition for us to have a full weekend, sometimes 3 days long, of live and pre-recorded radio content featuring both in-show hosts and guests from our community. So that's really cool. That happens every winter. I've been a part of it for several years. It's great. We do it like I think we did 4 days this past weekend. We've had a lot of guests come with us. Silver Sonic from Radio Nintendo, Mars Girl, yes, that one. We've had a lot of people that have joined us on that project, and we look forward to it every year. Much like MAGFest, Radio Sega's always been known for its welcoming and friendly community. First in our forums, then we had an IRC channel. Remember that? Who remembers IRC? All right, cool. And now mostly on Discord. In recent years, we've been making a big effort to grow our playlist of Sega music with several weekly editions of new, released, and more obscure older games. And I think this is pretty cool. Time and time again, we have been recognized officially by Sega. Yes, them. They know we exist. They allow us to operate. We're very thankful they haven't sued the pants off us. And they consider us a valued part of the greater Sega community, in which they've included invitations to our station, or to the members of our station. Several of our members of the Radio Sega site have gone and actually visited the Sega of Europe offices. Thanks for that, by the way, guys. Appreciate not getting the invite on that one. But this was prior to the release of this happened prior to the release of the Mega Drive or Genesis Mini. So this was a while back, but that was really cool. They came back with some cool stories. And our focus today continues to be on offering Sega and Atlas. I want to make sure everyone knows that because Atlas is now owned by Sega, so we have Atlas tracks. So where's my Trauma Center fans? All right. Persona?
Oh, that was...
Yeah, that makes more sense. Music for people to we have those for people to request to and listen throughout our day. We create quality live shows to entertain our Sega fans, and our current lineup includes several long-time running shows as well as bi-weekly slots dedicated to community podcasts. So we give a lot of people from our community a slot to find their fame and to give back to the community. I've had a couple shows on Radio Sega myself. My last one just ended. So if you haven't heard of it, you just missed it. But that's okay, because all 100 episodes are available for download. I was the host of the Strictly Sonic Show, which chronologically detailed all the mainline Sonic the Hedgehog games from Sonic 1 all the way to Sonic Frontiers, and now Sonic... Yes, thank you.
Superstars?
Yes, Sonic Superstars. Is there going to be a Sonic Dream Team episode? I don't know. Stay tuned for details. But I don't want to get a big head about my stuff. Again, we have a lot of people that do a lot of quality content and a lot of quality shows, and you will hear about that as we continue. So that covers a lot of the station history. The administrative, I don't have a lot of notes on, and I apologize for that. It's a kind of the consequences of some really poor timing here, but suffice it to say that, I can show you guys maybe a little bit here and tell you just a little bit about, that's not how that works. I know better than this. Hang on.
Hang on.
That should work. That's the right port, I think. Yes, it is. Cool. So, in case you missed when I mentioned it, and this isn't particularly new technology, so if you're not amazed by it, I don't blame you. But Radio Sega exists over an IceCast 2 radio server. That's and that server is running continuously, hosted by whoever hosts it. I don't know. You'd have to ask Viper about that. But the server's constantly running, and this is just, you don't have to think too much about what I've got on the screen right now. I'm just pulling this up to show you that we have an active real-time look at the status of our IceCast server, and that, it tells you that it's Radio Sega, it tells you our tagline, it tells you what time it is, cool. It tells you how many people are currently listening to the station, and it'll even tell you the track that's currently playing right now. And that's all that metadata can also feed back to the radio site, or the main site, where it says, hey, here's what's playing right now on Radio Sega. And if I were to request a song, which I'm not going to do, that would eventually show up in the Coming Up Next block, and things would work as they're supposed to. It just works, folks. Consider that, however, that the form in which music is broadcast, or the methods in which that we broadcast music and shows to the radio server, have evolved over some of the years. Back in 2006, the premier method of doing some radio stuff like this was through the use of SAN Broadcaster 4. But as software and means continue to evolve, we are now largely switched to Radio DJ, which is free to use, by the way. More on that later. And it's pretty intuitive. And with these and some encoding software like AltaCast and all the details we need to connect to our radio server, we can pretty much freely encode to Radio Sega whenever we feel like it. We don't want to do that because we have a schedule to keep. But we could if we felt like it. As far as I'm aware, the back end for Radio Server still runs some form of professional SAM Broadcaster 4, or a newer version of SAM Broadcaster, probably a newer version. And that is helpful because that helps incorporate the request function. When you send a request in, that gets sent to SAM Broadcaster. SAM Broadcaster picks it up, inserts it into the playlist, and then it plays through the radio because that's what you wanted to hear. So that's a little bit about the back-end administration. Maybe one day I'll get some of our other staff here to tell you about our website and tell you how the radio works, but today is not that day. So, all right. So I'm going to bring our guests back up on the on our video feed here. Okay, Nick, you want to talk? You want to talk to everybody about what you got in the playlist and stuff?
Yeah, this is my stuff. Usually ends up being a bit more philosophical, I suppose, when I end up having to not talk about history. So the topics that I have, well, no, one of them is a favorites list, so that is not exactly either of those things. But the first three topics I have are fairly philosophical in the way that I talk about them. First of them being the importance of playlist management. playlist management is an interesting hobby that a lot of people can have. Building lists, organizing things is an interesting hobby. I think there's many people out there better at it than me, just by instinct. I think a lot of us have something that we really want organized, categorized, have the folders to search for, that one little title that brings everything together as a cohesive whole. You could say that everything's a playlist, because it's a lot of distinct things coming together to form a recognizable thing. Buildings are a playlist of rooms, each with their own playlist of furniture or food or people. While out there at MAGFest, you're getting a playlist of panels to attend to. And at this one, you get a playlist of this person. I don't actually know if I'm pointing in the right directions. And in my lively room here, I've got a playlist of this, which I'm for some reason not using. Got this. I've got this. All these things could tell you a little bit about my character, but it's all just around here as a group, as a playlist. They paint a picture. But playlists don't form that whole on their own. Well, actually, if you put the effort in, you can spot some through line, but you also have to put in effort to make them fit a certain vision. That's up to you. If you're more into observational stuff or organizational stuff as the primary focus, I suppose. Observation is still a active thing though. You've got to make it work. A lot of playlists start with something you noticed was similar across the different stuff. I don't think there'd be music for study playlists if someone hadn't noticed in the first place, hey, I feel like I study better when these songs come up. I should narrow it down to just those songs. But I would still like some diversity, so I'll try and find some more songs that help me study. Just gotta poke around, find the boundary. The boundaries of RadioSEGA are always getting toyed with. We do have to think about and discuss what is a Sega soundtrack. Really though, Sega with its 60 plus history of doing different things can mean a lot of different things to different people. Is Tomb Raider a Sega game? Did I mention that in the last year? I'm not sure actually, but it was on the Sega Saturn after all. Nah, bro, that's just the console it was on. We've got a third-party playlist too. Chuck it in there. Well, first party's flexible. Second party, that's really flexible. Rarely hear about that. Maybe if Sega was printing the copies of it, we could let it in. Barcode's got the numbers only Sega of America gets to use after all. They did a thing there. We try and see what works, what feels right. What, when people tune into the radio, will make them go, that's some Sega music right there. It can be confusing, but with more music there, it's also an opportunity to learn more about Sega. Get some Sega education, as they say. But because of how big our playlist is, with 2,159 folders currently available, which are a mix of game soundtracks, album exclusive songs, and film/TV soundtracks, even a couple songs from theme park rides, it can be a challenge to keep it all polished. If you're a professional playlist manager or are young and have free time to develop, you should be able to do all right, but I think it's one of those duties that's gonna be seen as a side thing for a long time. But I could be wrong. I'm not an expert in like the zeitgeist of these things, if that's the appropriate way to say. Regardless, while I don't think I do it enough, it can be fun to talk about these playlist editions with someone once they're out there in public. Probably one of the modern RadioSEGA fans I find the coolest is Kefki, who's often got a comment on a notable soundtrack that's playing, and I'd love to talk with them about these more, just not always available. It is a lot of the time about the more obscure stuff. Most recently, they brought up G-Lock, which is like C-tier known about from Sega, maybe B-tier in Japan, stuff we wouldn't be able to talk about if there weren't people working to preserve this stuff. That would then go into my next topic, music preservation. We'll just quickly take a break to ask, does anyone have any questions? I don't know if I should have been doing breaks between these topics. Let me know. Okay, so on music preservation. So preservation is probably the big thing I do across like different sites, either music, mostly through RadioSEGA, credits, like on Sega Retro and VGMDB. Shout out to Carl, fellow VGMDB staffer and voice of some reason. That's my shout out of the episode. And just historical facts I also do, mostly on Sega Retro and a certain show I've produced. We're not preserving the music just for the sake of the music being preserved. We're preserving music in the hopes people can and will listen to it. Whether that's on the 24/7 stream, where people can listen to a random song at any hour or request up to 3 songs every 20 minutes of their choice, or if it's to ask a show host to play them on their show. There's a kind of appeal that comes with radio, knowing that you're sharing that music with other listeners. It's more tangible when you can talk with people in Discord about it, or especially when you're physically next to someone at MAGFest. But at its core, it's the same feeling of you and me, we're loving. Preservation's tough, of course. The effort it takes to archive older things that are on their way out can sacrifice putting effort into preserving newer things. And new things are constantly being made and released and taken down. I can't fully speak on it since I've never been in a workplace environment, but I do think there's a lot of overproductive culture out there. It's a very infamous thing that crunch culture was incredibly prominent in the video game industry in 2023, and I hear about crunch stories fairly often when I'm looking into the past. Recently, I learned about Osamu Murata during the development of Shenmue having to compose for 15 cutscenes a day, all within 3 hours before going into meetings. There's a pressure to keep making things, and urge on a lot of us to keep wanting things to come out, even as it takes longer and longer to make things. Stuff gets buried in that rush and misses out on being preserved. The rare person who preserves something like that can make waves when their thing they held onto resurfaces. It does take a lot of excitement from the community to snowball, of course. I've discovered hundreds of Sega things and helped my little bit to preserve most of them, but rarely do they get fanfare, partially because sometimes I feel like I'm also crunching it. Mostly also I don't like advertising the things I'm doing or find it difficult to make it compelling. I can kind of understand crunch culture from a very specific angle. Time is troublesome. I don't know if it'll bring down the mood, but there's been a death in my family, both of the past 2 years, one of my grandmothers and one of my cousins, and it sounds likely my grandfather is going to pass away this year. I don't really know. You can't know until it's too late that a thing is going to be gone. It can feel like we can't do or make everything we want to in our limited lives, but then when I try and get everything done I want to, I also don't take it in, retain a lot of the things that happened to me. I did a lot last year and don't necessarily remember a lot of it. The stuff I do tend to remember is the unexpected things that get stuck in my head for a few days, which sometimes is interesting facts that I learn that recontextualizes the things I've learned before, songs I hear that makes so many others fall into place in the wider context of music. But arguments can also get lodged in there, or even incomplete sentences. Preservation is essentially that, making sure it's possible for these things to stay with us, both the good and the bad. We need to experience both in our lives and accept them as a welcome spectrum. There's some rubbish music on RadioSEGA too, but all in the ears of the beholder, not The Eye of the Beholder. That's a game we have the music for on RadioSEGA. Music by Yuzo Koshiro and Motohiro Kawashima. So not rubbish music, that one. You should give that a listen if possible. I also need to touch up the track titles if possible. Track 05 is a banger, but it's not got a banger title. That's the end of the second topic. The third one is going to be about honoring artists, but I'll pass it over again for questions just in case.
Yes, sure, why not? Sorry, I'm not working with a mouse here, so it's a little tricky.
I understand.
Yes.
So I'm curious to know what things are like most at risk of being lost right now that you're looking to preserve.
Nick, what things, I guess, music specifically?
Well, music or anything related to music, because it sounds like you're talking about credits and things as well. And so I'm kind of, curious to know.
So what music and maybe music-affiliated items are we currently most at risk of losing? Did I get your question right?
Yeah.
Okay, you got me? You heard me, Nick?
Yeah, that's interesting, actually. I don't know if I've got like a ranking of the things that are most likely to get lost, because like obviously it's going to depend basically on how much people are interested in and how attention-grabbing it is from the get-go. So for example, artwork is usually a higher priority for a lot of people, so it's going to be preserved a bit better. But there's also so many people that are interested in making it, and then therefore even more of it gets made, and then so many of that then becomes likely to get lost. So there's sort of is it a bell curve? It's that sort of curvature where as things become more popular, they're going to become less likely to be lost. But then also there's going to be more of it, so then a lot of more things are going to fall through the cracks. I think that's the rough idea of how it would work then. And it's then going to then also be dependent on the things that are associated with it. So in credits, for example, it's usually going to be something that is, so for example, a Sonic game, pretty much all the credits for those, you're not going to lose those. Whereas something like Kokoro-scan, which is a Japanese-only educational game for the Nintendo DS, that you're more likely to lose the credits for, because there's not a lot of people like uploading YouTube videos or writing down the credits when they finish the game, and not a lot of people playing the game at all. And in that case, there's also like so many educational games that are exclusive to various different regions that also then becomes oversaturated, and then further makes that even those obscure things will further fall through the cracks. I hope that's a satisfactory answer.
Well, let me take this a step further. Why not? So, is there anything else, like particularly in the Sega world, looking at it today, that you think we're at risk of losing?
There's always mobile games, of course, especially since so many of them are starting to have shorter lifespans and such. Like, for example, Error Game Reset, which is less at the risk of getting lost because of it's sort of made big waves, but also it only was around for 9 months. It's already been canceled and it launched last year. So mobile games are a very clear indication. There's probably even deeper stuff that will be lost even further, but that is sort of a middle ground where it's like, yeah, that is definitely going to be lost, but you know that you kind of have a feeling that.
I think that's some great insight. I'm still over here mourning the loss of Sega slots. So, yes.
Yeah. Mm.
It's always like
do you think about that, Nick? Did you catch any of that?
I caught a lot of it, but could you repeat a little bit more in summary?
Yeah, so,
see if I missed anything.
With the lost, so keeping in mind that Sega is often releasing the same game over and over again, and that the rumor, well, I don't know if it's rumor or if it was factually reported that they may have lost source code for some of their games, and that's why they haven't re-released them.
Definitely.
How does the loss of source code kind of factor into risks of losing? You're referring to like the risk, how that factors in the risk of losing stuff like our music? Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, it is interesting because, like in terms of a music perspective, I know that, for example, there was for the 30th anniversary of the Sega SG-1000 console, there was a album released featuring all sorts of music from that, 4 discs worth of music related to the SG-1000 console and the Master System. And I know that goes way back, for example, and there's a mix with that album where some of it is using emulated soundtracks and some of it is actually recorded from the original hardware. I don't know completely how source code factors into that one specifically, but it does show that a lot of the products that Sega has created, especially going further and further back in their history and being some of the the lower priority products, they were preserved much worse, and a lot of times they have to rely on, well, emulation, I suppose, is the way to say it. And a lot of those emulations then will have been preserved by the community, and as opposed to being something that was sourced from within Sega. And source code is probably, it is more going to be an issue for those older games where it was analog
Signal?
onboard music. No. The analog sound source, that the music was being generated in real time as opposed to playing back a recording. In those cases, having an accurate version of the game that is built from I suppose the source code, or at least a preserved copy which was owned and didn't deteriorate, is then essential to having it be accurate, as otherwise you do have to rely on dumps online. So that is more of a 90s and before thing. Well, 70s and 80s and 90s, probably not so much the 70s and before, because that's more of the electromechanical era, where it's going to be even harder because there's a lot of machinery that needs to be preserved, as opposed to, well, it is still machinery, isn't it, when it's chips and circuit boards, but it's on a smaller scale. Is that okay to say? It covers a couple things.
Yeah, I'm getting nods. I think we're good there. I'm gonna sideline this panel. I'm gonna sideline this panel just for a second because that question made me think of something. So I just want to know among you guys, who's hyped for Sega Ages? I'm sorry, I'm not speaking to the microphone. There, that's better. Who's hyped for Sega Ages? All right, I got a few hands. I am crying for a new Crazy Taxi, so I am super excited to see that return. All right, so, all right, what else you got for me, Nick?
Okay, there's 2 more topics. The third one is the other, is it philosophical? Honoring artists. Now, RadioSEGA as a website, radiosega.net, isn't built with any way inherently to give a spotlight to artists.
Can I interrupt you for just a second? I just want I want you specifically to know that I gave you the task of honoring artists because you are the host of Individuals on Radio Sega. Plug, everybody. So if you want to talk a little bit about that too as part of your answer, that's why I tasked you with that.
Yeah. There's a little bit, but it's a bit more to the end. Spotlighting some highlights of this year. Now, Radio Sega as a website, radiosega.net, isn't built with any way inherently to give a spotlight to artists who worked on games. Fan artists, yes, their names will pop up when their songs come on the radio, in the same spot where we usually say what game the song is from. It might be confusing if their name sounds like it could be a game, like Prince of Darkness, Mega Driver, or James March. That sounds made up. But maybe the listeners would still be curious and Google that name. Where you can really honor artists with Radio Sega is in chat services, which is currently the Radio Sega Discord server. Just come in here and talk with people. That's how I started finding stuff to talk about, commenting on the stuff, the songs playing, about who's involved with it. The way I first got involved with Radio Sega officially was Lost Call, one of our older radio shows where someone from the community makes a Friday night DJ mix. And I did one spotlighting Hirodori Shoji, whose works include Fighting Vipers 2, Splash Out, Spikers Battle, the early Super Monkey Ball games, and every single main series, Like a Dragon or Yakuza game. Recently, he also made single songs for Error Game Reset and Sonic Superstars. One of the best ways of honoring artists is to reach out to them. Make it so they don't have to Google, Junpei Mishima is popular, yes? Making music can take up a lot of focus and motivation. I think Rexy would know about that. So it's good if a break from that is someone gushing about the things you've made. Back in the 80s, people showed their support by writing letters. In the early 2000s, they showed support by writing emails. Nowadays, we show support with social media. Radio Sega does that, especially during Late and Live and Sega Mixer Drive. Every song Resident SD or Rexy plays just about, I think, they'll also tag the creator on social media, let them know we're enjoying it, and link to their YouTube channel or SoundCloud, Spotify, Bandcamp. We also let the artist know for fan choice, song of, let me get the title more boisterous. Fan choice, song of the year. That's a yearly competition, I guess, where we all vote on the best game song and best remix of the year. We're currently in round 2, where we have 10 options for you to pick from in both categories. I still have to vote. Check out everyone's YouTube videos. But I've got my own way of honoring artists. The past 3 years, I've produced a show called Individual, with individuals in mind, body and soul. Well, sometimes it was 3 hours, but 2 hours is the intended length of going through a composer's history in chronological order, playing music, of course, but also talking a lot about the games they worked on, reading out commentary they wrote for album contents, translations if it's the Japanese version, or a French version in the case of Arnaud Roy. And this year we've even had direct support from some of these artists. Seiichiro Matsumura and Masayuki Nagao visited our Discord server. If you don't know them, Matsumura is a guy who pushes technology regarding sound and visual integration, but in the late 90s worked at Sega on arcade games like Manx TT Superbike, Sega Touring Car Championship, The Lost World, Jurassic Park, Touch de Uno, and Confidential Mission. The other, Masayuki Nagao, was at Sega in the early 90s. He moved from Megasoft, the developers of Toki Going Apespit, Harimarada, and Shinobi 3, to Sega, where he mostly did Game Gear games like Sonic Chaos, Jurassic Park, again, Sonic Drift, and every version of Dr. Robotnik's Mean Bean Machine. Plus, he's well known for arranging some of the Act 2 music in Sonic the Hedgehog 3 and Knuckles. Later, he worked for developer Opus and built his own rapport of people he liked to work with on games and albums, like on the 22 album Saeri Homemade, which I actually bought off of iTunes to play a track from on my show. That, I think, is the end of that topic. So, was a lot of, I guess, the acclaims of my show. I do remember that there was a lot of praise for the track crossfading that I did from both of them. made me a bit proud as a hobbyist music editor as well. Thank you. One more topic after this. Over to you, CD-ROM.
Over to me. Oh, okay. So that's everything on the list you got.
No. There's also some of the favorite playlist editions from this year that I'm gonna do. That's a shorter one, but I'll just want to know if there's any questions about the honoring artists.
Sure. Pause for questions. Yes.
So, you mentioned earlier something along the lines of you think Sega for not suing the band companies, right?
Yes.
So I think our question might already be answered, but how do you navigate the complex copyright of this music? Licensing-wise, you operate in multiple countries, where human rights worked out, you have things like where development teams on the song, somebody owns that, some are
I'm going to give you an answer. I don't think you're going to like it. We didn't. Right. So, bye, folks. No. So I guess we kind of have a unique story here. Maybe we're a unique situation, but that's why I give them that's why we give them our thanks, because they've been really cool to us. Like in addition to not cease and desisting us, they've invited us to our office and they've been very cool about our community. And I want to put this out there. Like if you guys had any doubts, Sega is one of the coolest companies that you can do anything community-wise with. They are very slow to C&D you for anything. So they encourage. I don't know if they encourage mods so much, but they have very. Yes.
I can say I do remember that there was an interview about Sonic Frontiers where there was a bit about how the development team were seeing the modding community as sort of rivals, that they would look at their mods and be like, we got to do better than them, but also learn from them like that. So they're mostly supportive of the modding community, I suppose I'd say.
Okay, so that's good to know. So they are largely supporting of the modding community. They are very supportive of the fan gaming community. So if this is the first time you're hearing this name, I want you to remember this one: SAGE, Sonic Amateur Games Exposition. That is once a year. It is a virtual fan game expo. We're not directly affiliated with SAGE, but I'll point this out there because I am a regular streamer for their SAGE showcase. That's Chaos Control Channel, by the way. Shameless plug, yay. So if you want to, there are a large amount of Sonic fan games that are made every day. But every year you get to see a very large amount of them come to one place, and you can play them all. Some are fantastic, some are not so great, but that's because these are fan endeavors, and people are
have them all.
They're a little green, so give them your support. But remember Sage Expo, because that one's fantastic. Lots of fan games there. Sega, I say this to point out that Sega is really understanding about a lot of the things. Like Sega gets it. They understand that this is fan endeavors. Sega will largely probably not C&D you unless you're doing something really egregious, like I don't know, porting the source code of an already made game into the PC that they would rather do themselves because they want to sell it for money. The really egregious stuff that's worse than just putting something up that belonged from Nintendo. Like we all kind of joke about how trigger happy Nintendo is with their C&Ds, but Sega's largely a lot cooler than that. And I'll take this a step further. We had Kevin Ava with us last year at this panel. We're a little sad he couldn't join us, but Kevin Ava is the head proprietor of LastMinuteContinue.com. So check him out when you get a chance. Kevin used to be the Sega of Europe community manager. So yes, we worked with Sega staff, or we still kind of do, really. But Kevin's interesting story about this is that the Sega of Europe offices were described as I don't know if you want to say uptight or terse or maybe a little bland. You had all your departments. You had finance, marketing, sales, even more finance. So it's kind of it's depicted as the, hey, this building looks really nice and pretty on the outside, and we really like to work in there, but when you're in there, you're stepping into hell every week. So it's first impressions and all that jazz. Kevin's story is that because he was already working with us with RadioSEGA, he was hosting Radio Redux, and again, now he does the stuff on Last Minute Continue. His story is that he heard, I don't remember if he said that he turned RadioSEGA on at his computer one day at the building, or somebody did, but the story is that somebody else on Sega staff heard the music that was playing and said, "Ooh, that's cool. What's that music?" And they go, "That's X and Y, from the game we're working on." So that RadioSEGA had a small hand in kind of somewhat shifting some of the work culture that happened at Sega of Europe. And I don't know if I want to say they're fans of us, but we appreciate that they allow us to exist every day. And we have no challenges or no risks of being C&D'd by Sega as long as we continue to proclaim that we are not directly Sega and that we are fans and that we are not affiliated with them in any way whatsoever. But we will always give them our thanks and greatly appreciate it when they give us free stuff. So, did you have your hand raised? Sure. Yes. Oh, not to my knowledge. But boy, would that be cool. I mean, Nick, Rexy, you guys have been, well, Rexy, you've been staff longer than I have. You tell me if anything's happened. Have anybody at Sega, as far as your knowledge, ever come to us to ask us about input for game OSTs?
Oh, you mean like asking for us to end up contributing towards their games? I have absolutely no knowledge on this whatsoever. As far as I'm aware, just going by liaisons within the staff, nothing like this had ever occurred. If it would, then we would have been like, OC Remix doing Super Street Fighter 2 HD Edition and promoting that here on the panel. But no, it's just not working, unfortunately.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
no.
To be direct.
It would be really cool if they did, but like Sega, again, is for the
Make
credit.
it official.
For the credit that I'm continuously willing to give Sega, we are still kind of just peons to them. So we're the fans, man. Like they get it, but they're not gonna unless you're kind of like pitching something particularly high level, like in the case of Christian Whitehead, who pitched Sonic Mania. They're probably not going to come to us for anything until we put out something particularly notable. So it could happen, and I'm sure Rexy would have stories about this, but if you were at the OC Remix panel, you heard about people at OC Remix that went on to do great things, that were picked up by game developers to contribute to the game and live their dream. But that hasn't happened for us yet, but who knows? One day it could. If Sega's listening, they very well know that we're on their radar, and it very well could happen.
Rio.
Okay, take it away.
Okay. Just one little thing that I don't expect to really get any questions. It's just a list of the favorite playlist additions that have happened over the last year. Not all stuff that I've made, because we do have two other playlist managers. Busy Lizzie, who is basically the second in charge and specializes in a couple major IPs. And then Green Viper 8, who is also our admin, who occasionally contributes to the playlist side, but has a lot of other responsibilities, so it's not the thing that he's known for at Radio Sega. But we got up to date on Tunism. You know it? It's a rhythm game Sega started in 2015 and is still updating. So our playlist manager with extra expertise on
I'm just
series
going to put this out there.
has had it.
I'm just going to put this out there, by the way. I came here last year and learned how to play Tunitham here at MAGFest, and now I just want to play it all the time. And it stinks because I don't have a round one near me at all. So I am very unfortunate in that aspect. All right, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Bass, kick, bass, kick. Like bass, kick. BBKK, BKK. There we go.
Yeah. Yeah. I heard the remix of it a while ago. I forget which version of Tunism that one was in. Might have even have been on Geki, but in any case, our players manager with expertise on Tunism has had it rougher than me on having to add that one. Not just adding it in the first place, especially keeping up with the different releases because it's eligible for Fan Choice Song of the Year, being that there were releases in 2023. In 2021, I updated all of My, the rhythm game that came before Tunism as an older brother, and I hope this year I can fix up all of the games from their younger sister on Geki. Technically, I promised to do that last year, but I didn't keep at it until it was done. But I did also split up World Club Champion Football, Sengoku Taisen, and Wonderland Wars by update, also arcade games from the 2010s era. So I'm proud of that period of the year. Now you can request songs from those individual updates instead of being limited to one song from the entire World Wonderland Wars every hour. Sega Strike Fighter is one that I got to add just a bit before the year's end. The heavy metal songs in that 1999 aircraft shooter have bugged me for years, since all the titles, the track titles that is, are registered on the music copyright database from Jazzrak. But that doesn't come with audio examples, so it took some research to find out how those titles are distributed between the audio. It's wild that game's 3 different difficulty modes are actually completely different playthroughs with unique music, most of which aren't recorded on YouTube, just the middle difficulty, not the beginner or advanced. So I had to actually play the game myself with an emulator, of course. I don't have a Sega Strike Fighter arcade machine. Attack on Titan Humanity in Change is a bit notable, since that 2013 3DS game has been on our radar for years. Unlike how it usually goes, I actually outsourced some of the research to someone who knows Attack on Titan better than me, MBGov1133, who is also an occasional composer and Twitch streamer. Exhumed/Power Slave /1999 was also a surprisingly big one. At least it took a while to research everything. The different versions of that across different consoles have different levels. So the fact that the PC soundtrack uses the level numbers for titles didn't seem appropriate for the Saturn version, so I had to count every stage in a playthrough and renumber them so that it, made sense. And for more general overviews, I got into Capcom for a bit at the start of the year, after I did a special 3-hour individual about Power Stone, Marvel vs. Capcom 2, and heavy metal Geomatrix composer Tetsuya Shibata. I was able to add a lot of the soundtracks by Izuho Numata, so we don't just have East, Fantasy Star 3 and 4, and Ghouls and Ghosts, but also Forgotten Worlds, Dodge Dante, Battle Outrun, Aerial Assault, etc. We added plenty of songs from the Sakura Wars franchise, which were missing for a long time. Through, I think it was from 2 to 5 that we were missing a lot of these songs from. And thanks to Busy Lizzy, we've really expanded our Atlas coverage with more Shin Megami Tensei and Persona games from when there was a lot of re-releases being done around the 2013 time after Sega purchased Atlas. And I'm friends with Marklin Cadet, who does a lot of the modern VGM packs for SMS Power. So I've been getting early access to those Master System and Game Gear soundtracks, and a lot of soundtracks for the Sega Pico, which he's basically the front-running VGM pack creator of for that console. And naturally, we've been keeping up with newer releases, such as the M2 Music Memorial with all sorts of Sega retro goodness, the final music collection for Border Break, the PlayStation 4 game, Sega Net Mahjong MJ Arcade version 2.0, which is a kind of a meme favorite for how good and diverse the soundtrack is for a Mahjong game. Error Game Reset, Busy Lizzy took to that one and kept us updated all the way to the newest version, basically each time. Samba de Amigo. The album for that one came out like 2 days after I went on holiday, so I've had to wait until this year to actually completely get that updated. And Endless Dungeon, which I think was the first album I pre-ordered from Bandcamp ever. Batman Arkham Trilogy, yes, we count that as Sega from the WB partnership they have in Japan, and lots of Sonic through 2023, since 2023 was the unofficial year of Sonic. There was also a set of remix albums called Sangokshi Taisen Naoda, which is unique in the sense that usually I don't add a lot of the fan community remix albums. Not because I don't want to, I want to add a lot more, but just because I don't actually have a lot of remix connections in the remix community scene. That's more something that Rexy would be good at. So I now hand it over to Rexy to offer some expertise. All kinds of expertise.
All right then. Hello there. I'm Rexy. I have been on RadioSEGA staff for 11 years. So Sega Mr. Drive Season 12 will launch next month. That's going to be great. And here I have been assigned to talk about quality programming, station events, and why and how we engage with our audience. So I've ended up writing things in the notes. I'm just like gonna completely go through things as I should. So, quality programming. CD-ROM ended up touching on this topic just very briefly during his stint on this one. We end up having a lot of people provide different kinds of content or pitching ideas towards the station. And I can't remember exactly how many we have had since the start of the 2010s. But most of the time, things had been extremely smooth. Anyone would just come in, pitch a demo, and following from there, they would be given a trial session, which would end up giving them a chance to end up broadcasting for about 10 weeks to see if they would be able to end up delivering things for the station. I would say week in, week out, but more like on a very regular basis, and are able to keep the community engaged. And most of the time, they've been able to make it onto the station either with the format they've pitched or with a revised format based on either overall feedback or hoping to get a topic that would end up lasting way much long term. Like CD-ROM, you've ended up with a whole bunch of them. I can imagine that. Strictly Sonic Show would have definitely had a short shelf life. But you've got other things as well, I bet.
Oh, man. Yeah, that show. I don't know what I was thinking when I came up with that concept. It only took you know what happened, Rexy? It only took the debacle that was the 4-hour Sonic CD retrospective to be like, what the hell am I doing with my life? So yeah, I should have put more thought into that before committing to that. But hey, I did it. Okay, so I still made over 100 episodes of that, and I did it. I committed to it. Damn it.
Yes, you did. But then we have longer form shows like Saturday Night Sega, which would like to change things up almost every time it airs. And in my case, there's Sega Mixer Drive, which had also been going on for over 400 episodes while maintaining a very consistent format, exploring the wider remix community and being able to share some new music every week. And as long as there's new music piping through and I'm able to share it on social media as discussed, then yes, it's just going to keep on going and going and going, and it's all about that great community exploration right there. So even then, when I ended up joining RadioSEGA on staff, when I ended up pitching Sega Mixer Drive, what I really wanted to do was to try and see if I can end up tapping into different communities for RadioSEGA to explore. Because at the time, well, we did have stuff like 8BitX and KNGI that had the rotating radio feed with lots and lots of different remixes from different parts of the community. RadioSEGA, the staff there, or people there, were very more limited in their knowledge, knew more about OC Remix and some people on YouTube, but that was really about it. And I wanted to see if I could end up tapping into more and more growth. So that's how they ended up getting to know about sites like the Dwelling of Duels, labels like Game Chops, Game Grooves, Tiny Waves, where you would have seen some of those people at the Pulse nightclub this weekend as well. Some artists that have ended up being around on YouTube as well, which was pretty much explanatory. RKO, remix.quid.org. Has anyone ever heard of the Commodore 64, by the way? Yeah, I see a nod with the CD-ROM. Yes, there we go. Amazing stuff. So, being able to tap into different scenes had been amazing to see if I can end up sharing the knowledge of different composers into a much wider place right there. I just love being able to end up being able to engage, just like being able to end up bringing people around different places, because at the end of the day, RadioSEGA is a community. And yeah, it feels interesting because I'm also part of the Overclock Remix Judges panel, and while I have seen some amazing Sega submissions end up going onto the site during my time on staff, it also means that so you would end up also running into, while surfing on the net, submissions that may not necessarily fit the OC Remix standards, but they're ready to end up showing real love for Sega either way. There's no right or wrong way to show your love, and again, it just means as long as the passion is there, then that's really what we can get with that one. So I'm very passionate about making sure to end up delivering quality programming. Anyone who wants to end up contributing would end up hopefully doing the same. We are a very wholesome community, and this is what we want to end up maintaining going forward as we head into 2024. CD-ROM, you're going to end up asking the floor for questions before I move along to station events?
I'm sorry, I didn't quite catch that. Say it again.
Are you ready to end up asking a question on the floor before I move into station events?
Oh, yeah, getting there. Did you want to talk about Sega Mixer Drive at all, or?
I ended up bringing up what I wanted to do with opening up with how Sega Mixer Drive just works, and wanted to end up tapping into the wider scene and promoting newer stuff.
Okay.
I'm sure that's what you heard, right?
I thought I heard it. I just wasn't sure. I'm sorry. I haven't been sleeping well the past few days. All right. So
Look at us.
yeah. So what you guys are currently looking at, by the way, is a snapshot of our current schedule. It changes kind of frequently with the incoming of new shows and the departure of old ones. So the content's always kind of rotating. Are you on break, Rexy?
I said I'm going to be returning at the beginning of February. I am on break.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
So Sega Mixer Drive's coming back
February,
beginning of
big
February. Nick, I think you're done with individual, right?
It depends really, because the third year was a bit of a rocky year, but also usually I end up coming back in June. So I have some time to think about if I end up taking on even more responsibilities outside of individual and can't commit to that, or if I do end up having the time to do individual. Because it's also recommended, of course, that I get like a salary paying job at some point, or some kind of other kind of work.
Okay.
At the age of almost 24 now.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
You got a few years on our administrator, who's 21 and has the most responsibility of anyone on the site, which just goes to prove that no matter how young you are, I have no idea where I'm going with this analogy. So anyway, I'm bringing this up again to point out that, like, to reinforce the idea that we're still constantly willing to take in new ideas and new talent is what I'm kind of getting at here. So if anyone's got like new ideas for shows and you really want to do it, we encourage you to pitch that show to us, and we encourage you to join our team and to make content with us and basically give back to our Sega community. It's what I did years ago. I found Sega Sonic Radio a number of years back, and I'm like, hey, that's fun. I want to do that. Now I say that to a great many things. I say that to, hey, I want to learn to play the piano one day. That hasn't happened, but but I committed to this radio gig, and it's been pretty cool. You get to create something that you get to stamp your name on and say, that's me. I did that, and you get to share it with people. You get to get your own fan base. You get to be part of a really cool community. And it's kind of like one more talent you can notch on, you put it in as a notch in your belt. So
Put it on your CV.
no.
What?
Yeah, put it on my CV.
What?
Take everything you got.
I put Radio Sega on my CV, so why shouldn't you?
Yeah, take the opportunity.
I'm not. I might not be hearing you guys correctly. I'm sorry. The speakers are pointing away from me, so everybody's voices in this call sound muffled. So I'm constantly asking you to repeat yourselves.
Okay.
Radio Sega is on my CV. You should put it on yours as well.
Oh, there we go. I thought. Okay, yes, it's on your radio. You should tune in. There we go. That's what we were
And your
getting at.
CV.
I misunderstood him. I thought he was saying something about my name or something. I'm like, what? No, we're not gonna. Whatever.
He did.
All right.
Did you mishear CV as CD?
I don't know. I don't.
Your resume.
Oh yes, there we go. Yes, CV. Put it on your resume. Yes. Okay, there we go. I'm sorry, you guys are real ones for having to put up with me. So why don't we go over a little bit of how the show content creation works? I want to reinforce that this idea of podcasting or live casting and just making something that you can put on the station and making available for download later. This is really, really not hard. A lot of people, when they're going into podcasting, they think they need to go out. It's like, I need to buy the best microphone. I need this sound mixer. I need an awesome computer. Let me tell you the truth, y'all. You don't need any of that. This is.
I only have the good computer, but this is just a standard USB microphone that I've used for podcasting for the past 12 years. And if you've got a USB mic like this, then you're good to go as well.
Absolutely. Now, maybe a good quality microphone would do you some favors. So don't take everything that I'm saying too super literally. Maybe let's skip broadcasting from a headset, but you don't need your own mixer. You don't need a super fast multimedia PC. You can do it with just a couple simple tools and a halfway decent microphone. Radio DJ is like our industry standard right now for the playing the music bit, and it's 100% free to use. And let me tell you, boy, does it work. It's only a little tricky getting set up because it's very insistent on using MySQL for its database, but putting music into this thing and playing it, once you got the music in, it's as easy as a few clicks. I can even search for the music track that I want, but once the music's there, I can put it into a track.
He's definitely got it right there. I mean, I remember like a few weeks back during the 4th season, 2016, that my usual broadcast computer had to be sent in for repairs, so I had to broadcast from a very old lower spec laptop for a few weeks, and it still works fine.
Yeah, that's
still
working. You're still getting the job done.
Heck yeah.
But and that automatically.
Getting that job done.
Go ahead.
No, I'm just Rex, for you getting that job done. Just making a jingle.
So in Radio DJ, basically what I just did is how easy this has to be. I put music into a track, I let it play, and as long as I was encoding to the station, which at this point I wasn't, but I would use this little program right here to connect to the encoder. I'm not going to show you all the details, but as long as you got all the server information, you can set how you want this to be broadcast to the station, where it's going, all the stuff about the tagline, the station name, because that goes into the metadata. Your mount point, your password, and as you tell this to connect, and then you're off to the races. You're basically starting to broadcast from the PC. And as far as not needing a soundboard, Voice Meter Bananas got you covered there with a couple of virtual audio cables and Voice Meter Banana, which is also free to download. You can on the fly manage how loud your mic is, how loud your outputs are. We've got this set up to control how loud the music is going to the station or how loud some sound effect carts are, which I would play for you if I had any, but I don't. So sorry, but it's really just that simple. So that's why we're constantly encouraging people to come up with an idea, like make something. Tell us what you got. We want to hear it. Audition to the station. Like for example, something else I should show you guys. Radio DJ also makes it really simple to manage all of your jingles, your interviews or talk beds or stuff like just normal stuff like bumpers, track bumpers and stuff like that. I don't have any on this laptop, so I can't show those to you. But actually, you know what I could do?
I've always got them up in FooBar.
You know what I could do? I could show you an import really quick of how this works, because I have the hard drive with me. So if I go to where I have my my show, come on. Yeah, it's trying to read from the hard drive, so it's looking at it really intently right now. And when it catches up, there we go. So I can go into my show folders, which are not in here. That's right, I remember now. I had a different folder for that. So I have, where is it? Nobody on the Twitch can see this, so I'm sorry, but that's strange. All right, well, here, I can do this. I can import my talk beds to interviews here like I normally do. I import that by directory, and then they all go in there. They're pretty quick unless you're handing it like several thousand tracks, and then I can go here, and here they are. All my talk beds here. And now, basically what I've got is I've got a, I've got a track of music that, when played, I'm gonna turn the music down so I don't blow everybody's ears out. But now I've got something that is kind of fun that will play for the next 15 minutes and that I could just talk over. I can have a quaint conversation with everybody while some relaxing music or a relaxing nice rendition of Green Hill Zone from years ago plays in the background. And now this is the essence of creating live show radio form content that we also make available for download later. And we could very easily change that over to a bumper or crossfade it to some music, actually. That sounds like a better idea. If I pull in where's the, I thought I had more, oh, you know what, hang on. I should have. So now I can track this here, and then when it's time to go out from a talkbed, I can mute my microphone through the mixer. I can turn the music up, and then switching over to the next track, fades over just like that. And now we're cruising with Cyberspace 1-2 flowing, which, if you haven't heard or played Sonic Frontiers yet, this is like my favorite track on the album. It's great. But that's really how hard it has to be. So, we've got, I think we've got about 8 minutes or so left. Who's got any questions?
I've still got some things to end up covering in my bullet point CD-ROM, so...
Oh, hang on, Rexy, I'm sorry.
Sorry,
1 second.
Rexy. I'm sorry, dear.
Okay, had to turn the music off. All right, say that again.
I said I've got some things still to cover in my bullet points.
Oh, gee, I didn't know that. Go for it.
Yes, so I already covered the quality programming part and how things would ideally work for all of us, but we've also got great connections with the station events. CD-ROM already tapped into Winterfest, which had been going on for 10 years. Nicolas also mentioned the Fan Choice Awards, which had been going on for not quite as long, but had been a regular feature to end up showcasing the best of Sega BGM and fan remixes that were released. throughout the year. It's been fantastic. We had also been involved.
Well,
Yeah. We'd also been involved with different charity things like the Game Blast Marathon that happened in the UK, which had been used for raising money for, I think it was Special Effect, the one that was the thing for allowing gaming to be accessible by everyone, which is really cool. And we have also used our Twitch side for quite a few things. Some of our Radio Sega staff have used it to play Sega games to end up engaging the chat with in their way, as well as used it for other links towards other events that have happened throughout the year, like with Sonic Symphony, being able to offer feedback towards the thing from there. And also, we also had a representative reacting to the Sega Ages drop at the Game Awards last month, so that had also been extremely cool for being able to go through all of this. So the thing is, we're there to end up reaching out towards people. And why and how do we do this? Well, first of all, it's best to understand the how. It's the basis for how Discord works, which CD-ROM tapped into as well. It's also where all the listener participation happens during live shows, reacting to the content on the fly, being able to share the memes, being able to love the music, all of that on top of that right there. And through our social media and streaming platforms, whether it be the Icecast or through the Twitch, we also want to make sure to keep on top of all of the relevant drops that happen within Sega circles and beyond, and we would end up being able to encourage discussions as they go along right there. It also means being able to liaise with other personalities as well via Winterfest, Casey's regular Sunday night show, the Sega Lounge, and Last Call, which was where we had our whole bunch of different guests end up dropping in their DJ mixes like Nicholas had done. So it had been great to end up reaching out. And in fact, I've been looking at the musical guests for MAGFest this year, and I saw some absolutely amazing people being lined up there. I heard that Lacey Johnson got her own big slot. Don Palombi's Game Nights got his own slot. Ro Paniganti has got a prog slot somewhere. The J Music Ensemble had been at the Jam Clinic. I'm seeing all of these names that I'd featured on the show at some point, and it's just great to end up seeing them keep on growing in their own way, building their fan bases and their community through and through. And when they end up loving Sega, they absolutely do. And indeed, in layman's terms, we all love Sega. We're here to express it via the music side, most importantly. And let's face it, within this past nearly 20 years, we've been pushing ourselves for excellence, and to be this good takes ages.
Bringing it back, yeah, excellent job, Rexy. Thank you very much. We got to start winding down. So I want to end up by saying a few things. A couple of which I should have said at the very beginning of the panel. First of all, thank you for being here and not being at the Sonic Symphony right now. I know you guys had that choice, but you came here to be with us instead. So thank you very much for that. What you're looking at right here is just a quick little look at our community Discord right now, which is wide open, and we encourage you to join it at radiose.ga/Discord. Please, we encourage you to join if you like everything you heard today and you want to hear more. Everybody at this community is fantastic. I don't think we've had very many people that have caused a lot of problems in our community. Everyone's, for the most part, been. We've got stories, but for the most part, everybody's been stellar, and we would love to have you there with us. You can always find us at RadioSEGA.net. The stream always works through Windows, works through a couple of other devices too. And if you want to hear us on the go, I think the premier way to do that right now is through Radio Garden. Until we figure out what's going on with TuneIn Radio. So make sure you download Radio Garden, listen to us on the go if you feel so inclined, and check us out at RadioSEGA.net and RadioSE.ga/Discord. Floor is open to any remaining questions. Yes?
I just thought it'd be fun to plug Terra Player one more time. That's also a good on-the-go option.
It would be a great idea to plug Terra Player one more time as an on-the-go option. Yes! TerraPlayer, as we bring it up.
No.
That's not what? Okay, hold on. I'm going to figure it out. Hang on. There we go. TerraPlayer by our good friend Resident SD is the best new way for tuning into your favorite video game music content. Here's some of the affiliates right now. Our very own RadioSEGA, the KNGI network, 8 Beats Radio, RPGN, Radio Hyrule, VGM, SID Station, Game That Tune Radio, and it's going to keep growing. So that is also a fantastic option for listening to RadioSEGA and our affiliates on the go, as well as our, I believe you can even find, I think you can find some of our show content through there too. Yeah, we've got episodes of our shows there. Hey, look, Chaos Control Center's there too. That was my old show. I didn't even know he added that. So if you're feeling iffy about downloading directly from RadioSEGA.net, then this might be a little more intuitive place to start looking for that content. Any other questions? Yes. Oh, dude, so hype! I'm ready to explode. I am. Like I said earlier, I've been crying for a new Crazy Taxi, so I'm super excited for that. We haven't seen anything from Altered Beast in a long time, so that's going to look really neat. Oh, awesome! You want to know the other name that caught my attention when I saw that? Golden Axe. So yeah, that's well, we're so excited for that, and we can't wait to get our. I'm sure, and I think Nick would agree with me. We can't wait to get our hands on the OSTs for all of those and have those added to the station.
Yeah.
That's going to look really. That's going to be really fun. Really quickly.
I hope the Diggy Nakanuma comes back for the new Jet Set Radio. I'm hoping for that.
Oh yeah, Jet Set Radio is going to be stellar. Are you guys looking forward to anything else from the
Toronto is
Sega
coming
Ages?
back.
Say that again, Nick. I was talking over you. I'm sorry.
Oh, just telling Rexy, I know Toronto is coming back. Who did Electric Toothbrush and
Oh, yeah,
and
that one.
Toronto remix. Yeah. He was in the video that they released in 2023, asking people who want to contribute to the series, pick up a job at Sega to work on Jet Set Radio.
All right, it is 9 p.m. and
I'll
we
get
need
back
to.
to you.
It is 9 p.m. We need to wrap really quickly. Plug yourselves, Rexy, Nick.
All right then. I also hang on all the social medias at FreakRexy. That's FREQREXY. That's on Twitter, Twitch, YouTube, all of those 3 things right there. I'm trying to get to Instagram going at the same place, but that's probably going to take a while. Sega Mix the Drive is going to return in 2 weeks from now on the 4th of February. So if you're ready to end up chilling and enjoying some fresh new Sega content as the year goes on, then there's your place.
Okay, and I am on, in social-wise, I am on Twixter. I think it was VGM who called it that, but Twitter, as Haman Nicolas, and I think I used the same handle, or Nicolas Haman, on all the other socials. So I'm on Facebook, I'm on Blue Sky, I am on Mastodon, and in terms of not social things, I am on RadioSEGA, of course. I'm on VGMDB, I'm on Sega Retro, I'm on Moby Games technically. I don't contribute that much there. I think that's all the online places I'm at. It's mostly writing that I do rather than any vocal stuff at the moment.
Cool. And I am CD-ROM 1019. If you punch that into your search engine, you will find my X, you will find my Xbox Live, you will probably find my Roblox profile, you'll probably find my YouTube. Just go to Google and search my name, you'll find me. All right, that's our time, folks. Thank you so much for being here. Long live RadioSEGA. Have a great MAGFest, and please vote us positively in your guidebook app. Take care, everybody.